Let me pull up this story from the Daily Mail. This is, Luke had just mentioned this a moment ago. Daily Mail says, what homeless crisis? Dozens of rooms and properties are available on Airbnb in Martha's Vineyard after homelessness director claimed 50 illegal immigrants could not stay because there's no affordable housing. It's a big lie. They look, pull up Airbnb and you will see the several dozen properties that are vacant right now. And I know you might be saying, but Tim, that's private property. You can't just force. I ain't going to force anybody. The local government of all of these very wealthy individuals who pay very, very large property taxes can spend the $200 per night to house these people until they can find a place for them. I'm not even trying to be cute here. If these people showed up and said, what do we do with them? Okay, it's going to cost us 10 grand. We're going to find them a home for 3 days to make sure they're comfortable, well taken care of, and well fed. We can easily afford the 10 grand. Then we'll find a place that's more permanent or a way to transition them to something more permanent. Instead, what do? They call in the National Guard, ship them off to a military base.
Oh, they also had a GoFundMe. They started $36,000 they raised.
I have another homeless wrinkle as it pertains to immigration, that it's exposed something, which is that in the city of Los Angeles, we have 150,000 people sitting on the streets, lying on the sidewalks, sick as hell, but any event. And we've had roughly 500,000 undocumented workers come into the city, give or take. Of those 500,000 people, they have no home, no money, no family, no job, no passport. They're there illegally. I dare you to find one on the street. It's a housing problem, and yet people with that kind of a burden find housing.
Yeah.
No, they have nothing, and they find housing. Not one of them on the street out of 500,000.
I used to live in LA, and I worked at a restaurant with illegal immigrants that were working in the kitchen, and they had like their own housing structure set up that only they could live at, and it was dirt cheap, like $100 a month. I was paying like $1,200 a month.
No, it's not that so much. They'd live in, they'd get 8 or 10 of them together and they'd get a place, and they'd go do it, and they'd survive, and they'd work real hard, and then they'd move out and find another place.
I think someone was funding their cheap rent. I think it was like an organization was making sure they had a place to stay for very cheap while they were there.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
they work
subsidized.
Look,
Almost.
even if these companies are paying illegal immigrants, they don't got to pay taxes. So they say, so if they pay an illegal immigrant minimum wage.
It wasn't my company that I was working at. It was like another illegal immigration company or group that was like making sure they only had to pay $100. I don't know. I don't know why their rent was so super cheap on Sunset in Silver Lake, LA. Yeah, it was insane.
Key Bono, is that the thing? Is
Who
that
benefits?
Yeah, who benefits? As Alex Jones says it all the time.
Yep.
Key Bono.
And the worst part was that they were amazing people.
Yes.
This is what's so crazy.
Yes.
But it's just the harsh reality of putting too many people together at once.
It makes me feel like, I mentioned this before the show. I mentioned it earlier on my other show. It's the fall of the Roman Republic, not the Roman Empire. Huh. And a lot of people have likened what's happening now to the Roman Empire. And maybe, I don't know, I was just reading and I was like, oh, it sounds like the Roman Republic. Like someone comes in, because someone super chatted this yesterday saying that Caesar crossing the Rubicon wasn't the end. It was transforming the Republic into the Empire, which made it last for another 2 centuries. And so I was thinking about that, right? You bring up the homeless problem. We've had a homeless problem in LA for what, several decades? Mm-hmm. And now we have a mass immigration problem, mass illegal immigration problem. How are we supposed to accommodate more people when we can't even accommodate our own? Mm-hmm. It's just going to crumble and fall between.
But we could accommodate them. We refuse to.
How?
We actively have laws and systems that prevent us from treating these poor people.
Like, how do we do it?
Oh my God, it'd be so simple. I mean, these are all my patients. Look, if you took that same population and put them in 4 walls in a room and they were dying at the rate they're dying right now, that's a hospital. Except there are no doctors and no nurses, and doctors and nurses are not allowed to interact with them or deal with them at all.
Why?
Until they get so sick they end up in the ER. And then if they say, I have a place to eat, I have $2 for McDonald's, I have a place to live, that's my tent over there, that's it. You can't, and I don't want to kill myself and somebody else, you can't keep them.
The hospital can't keep them?
No, you can't keep them.
So are you saying these are people with like...
drug addiction, schizophrenia, bipolar. It's just a mess. It's just an open air asylum now.
These people with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, if they were given medication, would they
thrive?
They would thrive.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with the state senate for a while, trying to get a law passed to take the heat off a little bit, because we sent families up there and families were like, look, I have money, I have doctors ready to go, I have a bed for my son. Please help me bring him in. He doesn't want to come in because it's part of the illness. They have something called anosognosia. They're blocked and seeing what's going on with them. They think they're living their best life. They're just getting sicker and sicker, and they die. And anosognosia is a neurological term. It just means kind of like denial. And they just told them to scram, get out of here. Get out of here. Who are you to say?
It's like it's on purpose, isn't it?
Yes, it's disgusting.
Is it? Why,
it's terrible.
Why is this? Why?
I did a documentary called Beyond Homelessness with the Salvation Army. It's sort of making the rounds now. And the woman that spearheaded that, did the interviews and stuff, I was with her at a film festival. I said, I'm so tired. I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it. She goes, no, please keep going. I go, well, I can't fight these guys. And what can we reason with them? And she turned to me, she snapped at me. She goes, it's a religion for them. It's a religion. You can't reason with them. I thought, oh, great. And the religion is, people are free to do whatever. There's no such thing as brain diseases. Yeah. There's no such thing that affects free will. There's no such thing that affects judgment. There's nothing. The only disease is dementia. That one, if you don't treat, you've abused a patient. And it is the same exact symptom complex.
And all the studies,
abusing Joe Biden.
And all the studies and what we knew about dementia was also artificially inflated by a scientist that just made science up. That was also a recent scientific finding as well. And Ian, you ask why. Do you think the government cares about you, Ian? Do you think the government ever cared about you? Or do you think they're there to provide a service? They don't. Absolutely not.
Wrong. Luke,
I disagree.
You're completely wrong. Wrong. Excuse me. The government cares about you because if you're not around,
where your taxes coming from?
Exactly.
California, they really need you.
So they see you as like a fresh ripe apple to be juiced, to just squeeze as much as they can. And look, I got an apple tree. Do I care about the apples? Well, look, I'm not going to go save the apples when they're injured, rotting, or whatever. I'm going to throw them in the garbage. But I care about them insofar as I would like to take the ones that are good and use them for food and juice.
Is it the problem where you can't, the California doesn't want you to be able to go take someone off the street and be like, you're sick, come with me?
Yeah, nothing like that. My God, nothing like that.
Can the people voluntarily come into the hospital and stay?
But not when they're sick like that. That's very rare. But it's look, the term, we used to be able to keep people for suicide, homicide, and gravely disabled. Gravely disabled is essentially gone. And gravely disabled is what's going on in the street.
What if we did this? What if we just put lithium in the drinking water from Vox.com in 2018? How our drinking water could help prevent suicide.
Is that what they want to do?
Put lithium in the water, and that's scary, right?
Yeah, are they really talking about it?
Yes, this is Vox.com. This is mainstream NBC funded Vox.com. Putting an article out, arguing that we should put lithium in our drinking water to kind of desensitize people.
This is because they found that people who lived near water sources that had lithium were much happier. They were less depressed, less suicidal. So they're like, all right, let's do it.
"Quote unquote happier."
Well, I mean,
you knock on their door and they're like, "Hello."
Yeah.
In the right dose, I think it would probably be good for you. I imagine it's the third element. I mean, it's got to have something good.
This is fluoridation all over again.
Well, but this is psychoactive. I mean,
right.
And it's bad for your kidneys too.
Right.
So like top-down medicine.
And your thyroid. Screw your thyroid up big time.
What's your experience with top-down medicine? Because I find like saying
top-down?
Like saying this is the vaccine, everyone needs it, whereas everyone's different.
The centralization of medicine is one of the biggest catastrophes I've ever seen. Medicine is best practice of highly trained caring physician, motivated, informed patient. That is your most efficient unit, period. Anything else screws it up. And now, in medicine, look, I didn't realize 80% of physicians are employed now. So when all these physicians froze in place and stopped treating patients, I couldn't understand what was happening. Well, they got word from on high, from the centralized authority, just send them home. And that was it.
Yeah.
It was psychopathic.
And that's crazy. And they didn't even talk about early treatments. They didn't even talk about
nothing.
Preventative treatment.
No, because they were instructed, just shut up, don't do it.
Well,
exactly, which is crazy.
So I got sick. And then I felt fine. And I was like, I just feel like I'm a little sick. Then it got bad. And I was like, I'm going to call because maybe there's a protocol for this that I'm not aware of. And I'm somebody who reads constantly, but I was like, maybe they'll say like, hey, take this vitamin, do this or otherwise. I called the local hospital and they went, go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
monitor your PO2. That's it.
And they were like, just go to sleep. They didn't tell me to do anything. And then that night I got really bad and I was shaking. And so I was like, man, if I got to call Joe Rogan, it's the only thing I can do.
That's what I always think when I get sick. I got to call Joe Rogan.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, it was I had talked to a doctor and they said there's nothing you can do. But I knew from the news, not even from talking to Joe, that he had gotten monoclonal antibodies. And I said maybe there's something he knows.
And by the way, his treatment was like a year into the pandemic. We had that stuff for 6 months before that.
Right.
It's crazy.
Now,
dude, that to me is a public health failure. They should have been educating people how to. They want to save lives. Educate people how to deal with their illness.
This is the crazy thing. So we all got sick. We all got the monoclonal antibodies, and we were all like just overnight just better. It was a weird experience. And then I remember hearing from my doctor that they were actually struggling to get more monoclonal antibodies at a certain point.
There was a moment right around the time you probably got sick where they had trouble distributing it, trouble getting it, trouble accessing it.
But they were saying it was because the government was shutting it down.
Yeah,
they were making it harder to get, and then I think what Biden said no to it, or
no,
what
you know what? It was how they I think they started sending it into areas of risk. You know what I mean?
Well, no, Biden tried to take it away from Florida, and Florida and Ron DeSantis had to fight back, saying no, stop trying to take it away from us. And then they limited it because they said it was quote ineffective, which absolutely made no sense at all and was not backed by any science.
One of the things that I've learned about public health is it's not about medicine. They're many of them are not even biologically trained, certainly not clinically trained. It's about equity. That is the new public health mantra, and that was not the right. It's an important prism. I get it's important, but it's not the whole story, and it was not useful or not important in terms of getting through this particular pandemic.
Wasn't there somewhere?
There was people in Texas denied antibodies because they were the wrong color of skin.
That happened to a patient of mine.
Yeah, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Which is absolutely crazy. You take care of someone depending on how much they need to be taken care of, not because of the way that they were born with a particular skin color. And this happened in the United States. There's a viral video of a guy filming as the nurse is telling him, "You don't qualify." Why not? She's like, "Oh, you're white." It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Now I'd forgotten about this chapter. It's interesting. I'd really forgotten about it. But I remember they were reallocating it and sending it places where you couldn't get it. But that was the deal. I had a patient get really sick with it. Now it was probably Omicron, and it was before we had Omicron-specific monoclonals. So I wasn't at the time that upset about it. But I thought, man, it might have helped him because he got really sick.
That's just he should
people
file
died.
a suit. I mean, that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act.
People died because they were denied
They were
care.
specific criteria that he did not meet. Just these criteria.
Has that changed?
The
now?
most important criteria was the color of your skin.
There was the same thing with the vaccine rollout too. Remember, the reason I got COVID, I couldn't get the vaccine because I wasn't as that first equity rollout. Remember that?
They started, marginalized people first.
Right. And I couldn't get it, and even though I was treating COVID at the time, and I was going to go volunteer my time in the ER. They lost me because I got so sick.
And that's why it's important to point out that the CEO of these big pharma companies are very good, honorable people because they chose not to get the vaccine because people couldn't.
Like
do
the Sacklers, they're very honorable.
Yeah,
the way they told people that what is it? Isn't addictive.
Percocet.
I could go all day on the opioid
opiates.
crisis. I lived that one, man.
And
we have AB 2098 in California now, where doctors have their license taken away if they give out misinformation. You don't know about 2098?
No.
Oh my God, this other side of the country hasn't heard about this yet. They passed a bill that says if any doctor is found to be giving out misinformation that it deviates from the standard of care, their license could be uncovered.
What's the standard of care?
That's the problem. I've seen standard of care. When I first got to the psychiatric hospital, I started working at a psychiatric hospital in 1985. When I first got there, I acquired about 24 patients that were the subjects of the standard of care in the late 40s and 50s. Oof. Somebody put an ice pick up above their eye and swooped it back and forth, and they were disasters. And that was the standard of care. Then I had to live through the opioid standard of care. Pain is the fifth vital sign. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Pain is what the patient says it is. Pain controls what the patient says it is. They also started prosecuting physicians for inadequate treatment of pain. So we all froze, and we all froze and sent everything to the pain doctors, the pain management guys, who felt that anybody that didn't use as much opiates as possible was opiophobic. Patients are in control. Let them decide what they need. And my patients were being killed hand over fist.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.